Hey guys, my name is Eliezer. I am the owner of Dog on the Moon, and today we are interviewing the one and only Pueblo Vista, also known as Paul. Please give him a round of applause. But yeah, please like and subscribe if you enjoy this video. The video quality and sound quality isn't exactly where I want it to be, but we are going to try and improve it for the next interview. But yeah, please enjoy. Now I'm going to give it to Paul to introduce himself. He owns the record label called Pueblo Vista. Wow.
It's great. Don't worry about it. There's a lot of people mistake the name anyway. The official name of the label, by the way, it's it's something that's completely unpronounceable. There's a mixture of Greek characters, some other UTF characters, and then some Czech or Slovakian characters. But anyway, there is some sort of an abbreviation, but I haven't really pinned it down. So Pueblo Vista is the name of the brand, is the name of my artist as well. But because I said, people cannot really pronounce it properly, but it's fine. They would call us either PV or Pueblo Vista, or it's cool. And I'm the guy Eliezer rightfully said. So I'm the guy behind this monster. This Frankenstein. That's it. I don't know what else to say.
Okay. So the first question is, when and how did you start PV?
Okay, so I will try to make a TLDR version because it could be too long. But the story of Pueblo started back in 2014, so that's about 7 years ago. It started off as a YouTube channel for me. I wanted to have a place where I can upload videos because my then girlfriend, now wife, after visiting a friendly couple of ours and watching some of their holiday videos, she asked me if, why don't we have holiday videos? So that kind of introduced me to the virus that is called videography and photography and all that stuff. So I started buying cameras and GoPros, and then I moved into mirrorless cameras and then drones and whatever, and I started making these sort of blogs and whatnot. So I would do it every time we go out outside and hike. And this is when it started back then. That was the reason why it started. And then eventually after that, the musical concept came rather later. I think about 3-4 years later, because I used to use Chill Hop Music's music for the videos, as a music background, because at the time they were the only ones that provided copyright-free music, basically. There was a very straightforward form within their website at the time where you can just go there and sort of fill it out in order for them to whitelist you, I think, if they were a YouTube channel or whatever. And that's when I first started listening to more and more of that. And then I think at some point, like everyone else, we came across Chilled Cow's channel, now called Lo-Fi Girl.
Lo-Fi Girl, yeah.
Yes. I think he fully embraced the identity there, the memes, everything. So I think that's the very short and abbreviated version of when and how Pueblo Vista was, conceived in a way.
What are the main difficulties you have when having a record label?
The main difficulties when having a record label, I think the first one would be time zones. Usually that's the major one, communicating, let's say, on time or more immediately with people that are too far away. Usually when it comes, because I'm located in Austria, so we're GMT, CET time. So it's basically pretty much okay to communicate with, I guess, some of our artists that are up to India, which they're a little bit sometime a few hours ahead of us, and then communicate with the East Coast, with the States. But when it comes to more than that. Like West Coast, for example, is like about 10 hours. And then when it is with like people in Australia or Japan, it tends to be even worse. So the times are a little bit, the communication is a little bit delayed. But yeah, that'll be it. The other thing, I guess, it's language barriers. I mean, of course, everybody speaks, I guess, English sometimes, or this is what we assume at least. I tend to be multilingual, so I can communicate in at least like 3-4 languages, like Spanish, Italian, German. German being my strongest one, in English. Yeah, of course, Greek, because I'm from Greece. But yeah, sometimes that's also like the case. And then other stuff, like there's always like administrative difficulties in the sense of like people are not used to working with specific, let's say, distributors, or maybe they're new to a new distributor and they're figuring out the processes and whatever. There's a lot of people who've been using, for example, DistroKid, and every now and then, because we use a different distributor other than DistroKid, I get the question like, oh, should I, set up an account there, or are you going to send me the royalties directly to my DistroKid, or here's my DistroKid email? I'm like, yeah, that's not it. And of course, like, speaking of which, like other difficulties, like it's if you have kids or family related stuff, like I have a 1.5-year-old child behind me at the moment, that she's pretty busy with herself, like playing around and stuff, and nice and quiet, thankfully. So yeah, I would say these are the difficulties. But yeah, everything, with every job there come challenges, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. What is your biggest fear when it comes to the future of the lo-fi community?
The biggest fear, I think. Well, I wouldn't really call it like a biggest fear, but it's like I think that the toxicity sometimes of the outside world might actually, and we've seen it several times in the past, like actually spills over to a musical genre, or let's say a community itself. The most common issue that I've seen that me and a lot of other community members have witnessed is there's like a low-key discrimination between male and female beat makers, in the sense of like, there's a lot of bad blood there, in the sense of like, for some reason, some guys, consider women beat makers like inferior or whatever, or not capable of doing that, which that's definitely not the case. It's like, just because there's like fewer of them doesn't mean that they're worse or anything like that. Like everybody's equal. Like we're trying to also, like with Pueblo Vista, there's like I only managed to connect with a couple of them, and we try to release as much music as we can, of course. But yeah, I've already like jumped into a couple of, like, let's say, Twitter beefs, like trying to sort of like not put people in their place, but in the sense of like, like let people get their shit together. Like you don't have to like, attack or bully people just because of their gender or whatever the fuck. Like at the end of the day, we just do music. It's good or it's bad. Like it's if you like it, great. If you don't like it, don't listen to it. You don't have to be negative about it. Like if you have like an opinion, like it's better like to keep it to yourself. But like I said, with every profession comes stuff like that. Like at the end of the day, when it comes to beat making or music or whatever, whether we like it or not, we put ourselves in the public eye. Like we're out there, we're trying to make their music. So along with good criticism or bad criticism, there's always trolls, there's always negativity, there's always like hate, there's like it's not that nobody has ever received it, and thankfully that there's not so much racial issue there, but that would have been like, how should I say, if something like that would have happened, then I would just say, fuck it. Like I don't want to deal with that shit. Like I don't want to be in a place that, it's music. Like shit like that
It's meant to
should not
bring people
matter.
together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Shit like that do not matter. Like, I don't care if you're like black, white, yellow, girl, guy, like gay or not. Like, it's whatever, man. Like, it's, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, if somebody, sends some music to me, I'll be like, okay, I like it. I'm not gonna be like, oh, how old you are, what do you have between your legs, what's the color of your skin? Like, who gives a fuck? Whatever.
Yeah, true.
So
True.
that's the only fear, basically, that kind of like real life, like all that shit, like spilling over to the genre and the community. But like I said, I think thankfully the people who are like really active in the community are really good at keeping the balance. And we've seen in the past several issues of bad apples, let's say, and the community as a whole just cast them out. So that's really good. Whether it came to like toxic beat makers or like scammy labels or stuff like that. So,
yeah. I think you all know those labels.
Yeah. We don't need to name drop. It's fine.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, that would be like the only fear. Other than that, I have nothing but positive thoughts about it, and I definitely see it like going in a very good direction. Like, the genre keeps evolving. There's like more and more people being involved. There's this brings like more and more different skills and ideas and influences and inspirations like on the table. Like 5 years ago, there was like nobody. There's like a couple of people who were making it. 2 years ago, there's like 120,000 more people, and then every day we see more and more. So yeah, there's more positive than negative, but yeah.
Okay. Do you think it helps that you are an artist when it comes to being a record label owner?
Yeah, definitely. It definitely helps because you know both worlds, and it's a lot easier to, let's say, communicate, especially if you're a label. You can, let's say, understand and it's a matter of empathy at the end of it. You can empathize more and connect with artists. It's the same concept with being like a player coach, let's say, in a soccer team or like a football team or whatever, or like we see on the NBA, for example. Like, not every player makes a great coach. I mean, we all know what happened to MJ when he tried to start coaching. But yeah, other than that, yeah, it definitely helps a lot because, like I said, you can connect to people, and it's a lot easier, and it's better. It's easier to communicate than rather than just have like expectations and like two different worlds that might actually collide instead of like get together.
Okay. Who do you respect the most in the lo-fi community, whether it's an artist or a fellow record label owner or even just a fan?
Yeah, when it comes to the fans, I guess I would have to admire all of them. Like, I don't really know them personally, other than my mom and my dad. Like, they're major fans of what we do, or as many fans that they came forward. I don't really remember their sometimes like nicknames or Instagram handles or whatever. There's definitely like a couple that sticked into my head, because it had to do with how our music and the stuff that we put out, actually a couple of my beats that I put out, helped them a lot to go through anxiety and depression and all that mental health, which is very close to home for me. When it comes to other labels, I have to say that I do have a lot of respect for Chill Hop Music, because they were the first ones basically to actually go into more of organized collective / business direction. And there's a lot of people, I think, that were inspired by that. I mean, me included as well. In a way that, let's try to do something for ourselves, like to represent some different genre or different sound, a different group of people, because not everything just because you call something lo-fi doesn't mean that everything sounds the same. It's the same. There's like different lo-fi labels, and depending on the people who manage them, the curation, whether it comes to playlisting or actual releases, is very different. Like I guess if you're not in the so much embedded into the scene, you might not really tell the difference, because at the end of the day, what we do is, the audience is not really following the artist; they just follow playlists, which is changing slowly but surely.
Yeah.
So that would definitely have to be, Chill Hop, and the one that I'll definitely respect a lot. Then other labels that I do really like what they do is 9 to 5 is a really solid, down to earth, organic label collective. 9 to 5 Worldwide Beat Makers. I don't really know the exact name, but it's 9 to 5. Inner Ocean Records are really good as well. This is like one of the labels that I definitely respect. We don't have a lot of interactions with these guys. Like there's like, we would like each other's posts every now and then, but we're all in the friendly area, because there's, spoiler alert, there's a lot of beef within the labels in the lo-fi business still. But we're not going to talk about that. Other labels, I fear like I'm going to leave somebody out and it's going to blow up in my face. But it has to be like the ones that I respect. I do acknowledge a lot of them, but a couple of new ones that are good. Tsunami Sounds, which is relatively new. Basically, is like really good work. What's happening there, and I'm fully supportive of what they do. And then I have a couple of other friends like Hypno Lo-Fi, which is Evan and Electric Sheep, that they put it together. A couple of other my friends, Streamer and H1, they put their own label together as well. I don't remember the name. They're gonna kick my ass. Fuck.
You won't be able to remember everyone anyway. So
yeah, it's like, but it's them. Like I even made like a story with that shouting out. But that'll be it. And when it comes to artists, like I'm pretty sure, like from the top of my head, without making any discriminations or whatever, I'm just gonna say, for me, the number one would be Idealism. For me, he was like one of the OGs of OGs, or whatever you want to call it. Philanthrope, of course. Swoom is one of them, even though there's a lot of memes and internal jokes. Like a lot of people think that Swoom is a robot because he likes everybody's tweets and and comments on his Instagram. I don't know if he's a real person and is like an algorithm or something, but shout out to Swoom. Like Saib, who else? Odyssey. There's like a bunch of guys like right, left, and center that much respect to them. I would say like all the people that ever released with Pueblo Vista, from the Italian crew, like I said, Streamer, Akauno. I have a face who was one of my first friends in the scene as well, Francesco. New guys like are showing up now. Like I said, we have a big roster. I admire and I worship these guys, because these were the people who actually pushed me into start making my own beats, rather than because I do come from I used to make music myself, but I come from more like electronic background, like progressive house and deep house and stuff. So I never really had an intimate relationship with hip hop or the culture. I only focused and learned a lot, especially for the hip hop culture and the history, these past 4 or 5 years, before I said I'm ready to start making something. I just wanted to make sure I have some sort of understanding of the culture before I start appropriating it, and say, oh yeah, I can do it. It's easy. Slap some beats together and then some samples, and then that's it. Because this is how it might seem from the outside world, but it's not.
It isn't that easy. I tried once, and it's hard. It's hard.
I know.
Where do you see Pueblo Vista being in 5 years?
Wow, Pueblo Vista in 5 years. I don't know. We could be on the top of the food chain or the bottom of the ocean. Really, things are really fluid at the moment. We have been working towards a lot of uh, new things in the sense of like making moves, and I think in 5 years I'll be around. I mean, I hope I'll be around. I might be like 5 years older, but I'll be around. Hopefully, working with even more and more artists, or bringing a lot of new artists into the scene as well, because this is what I like to do, and this is what I've been doing for a long time now. Like I much rather like focus with younger artists and or upcoming ones if I see the potential, and then I'm very eager to cultivate that and help them like develop it and push it forwards. Now, if the artists want to do that, that's a whole different question. But I do whatever I can to push them to the right direction. Um, I, I like to think that because we have like made a couple of interesting business choices. One of them being like working closely with Universal Music. I guess I can say that since the cat is out of the bag, as they say, for a while now. And they're really like helping us a lot in the sense of um, providing more audiences, having a lot more resources, of course, having a lot more people dealing with the music, and populating it in different areas where there's like not just playlists but also like websites, internal stuff. Like there's a bunch of stuff that I also do not understand, or maybe I'm a Universal Music employee, so I don't have to know. So I definitely see that going somewhere in the sense of basically laying the foundation for all the people who are involved with Pueblo Vista in the terms of like producing, to give them a bit of provide them with more possibilities in the sense of like making like music, not just making lo-fi and put it on a playlist, because this is like, sadly, this is what everything evolves around. Like I just need to make some beats and then land on an editorial and then I get some cash. But there's a lot of people out there, especially like the ones that are in this tight-knit group that we have that works with Universal, that they want to take their producing game to the next level. For example, I mean, I don't really need to mention artists that are signed with this establishment, this worldwide establishment, but there's possibilities of I'm not saying that I'm gonna be producing Justin Bieber's next album. Hell no, that's never gonna happen. But there's like artists of different levels, and what we do can definitely be used, let's say, into hip hop, can definitely be used to even work with jazz musicians a lot, and go to a direction where you won't have to rip records or dig stuff. Stuff could be like provided to you. We've seen that with a lot of websites like Splice or Tracklib. I mean, one of the most iconic producers for me, like, or at least for what we do, is Madlib as well. Like the stuff that he makes are, the instrumentals are like very close to home when it comes to lo-fi. So, and we see like a lot of major artists and rappers that they try kind of like adapt that style of like a more laid back beat, but the same, I would call it like aggression, or let's say tenacity, when it comes to the bars and the lyrics and the stuff that they spit out. So yeah, like it could definitely like go. I only see like I want to see it like optimistically. Like I want to be an optimist, even though I'm like a major pessimist. Like I think we're definitely gonna be around. To sum it all up, and I think it's gonna be better than it is now. I'm not saying like having like millions of streams and stuff, but better can have so many layers, like not just opportunities. Basically, there's going to be a lot more opportunities.
Okay, this is the touchy question, but I've realized that in the lo-fi community there are a lot of people who suffer from mental illness, and I've also noticed that some artists have also suffered from mental illness as well, and they say that lo-fi, whether listening to it or creating it, really helps them. Have you ever had the thought that music from your record label could possibly help people in this way?
Yeah. This is like definitely like a touchy question because it's very close to home, as I said before. I myself suffered from, and I still, I think, do in a much smaller scale, of course, from anxiety and panic attacks and stuff. And I don't really know if it helped me or not to create music, but definitely helped me to, deal with it and focus on the label and listening to other people's music, because it just helps you focus a lot more. Like it kind of like it's like a white noise. I think it has the same effect that white noise has with babies. Like when babies cry or whatever, there's different sources of white noises, whether it's like the classic white noise of a static of a TV, or it's like a hair dryer that really, shuts them down. Like it's the auditory system. It's like very, surprised, like, what is this? And I think that lo-fi has that kind of white noise effect. But then again, like lo-fi, not without no disrespect, like to chill hop or whatever, like that kind of sound, not really, because it's like more jazzy and more organic. But the lo-fi stuff, like the glitches and the vinyl crackle and the hissing and the badly recorded samples and all that stuff, it definitely works as a white noise for you to like, shut everything down and just focus to what you do. So I definitely see how this can be utilized to treat, let's say, mental illnesses in the sense of like depression or anxiety. Like I said, I tried it myself, so it works. Definitely does not. I'm pretty sure that it doesn't work or it doesn't have the same effect with everybody. But as you have noticed as well, it's like a common denominator. Like a lot of people experience the same thing, or coming forward saying that they witnessed that the more they listened to it or the more they made it, really helped them with their day-to-day, basically. And yeah, I, on the other hand, like I'm very positive when it comes to medicated treatment, in the sense of like I'm still taking antidepressants myself that are focusing mainly for anxiety and are not you don't really build like dependency, because there's some drugs that are like heavier, and if you pop 3-4 pills when you're supposed to be popping one, then it becomes like toxic. So yeah, like touchy or no touchy, it's reality, whether we like it or not. And a lot of people come forward and say they listen to the music, it helps them a lot. Like I told you before, I had myself a lot of listeners coming forward and say, hey, just dropping by to say thanks, I really like your music, it helped me there and there, big fan, and that's it. And I'm very thankful for that as well.
I think that was a great answer. Well done. Did I ask the question where I ask, is there any advice you would give to anyone who wants to start making music, specifically lo-fi?
Yeah. No, you haven't asked that yet, but yeah, thanks for the question. That's a very interesting question as well. I think there's a huge magnitude of responses or answers to that. Lo-fi, if you want to start making lo-fi music. So I think there's a couple of ways. Like the main way that I see it's like just start doing something. There's definitely a lot of people who come into the scene that have like a false perception of what it is. Like I said before, there's a beat and there's a sample, boom, that's it. And we've seen this a lot, like me myself, like whether it's in the beginning when I was digging through lo-fi or digging through music that I wanted to put on my vlogs, or nowadays when we get submissions for playlists or for releases as well. That could be sometimes sometimes more than often, I would get tracks that are 3.5 minutes long, and it's the same beat, like copy pasted over and over, and it's like nothing changes. Sure, I do understand that the lo-fi, a part of the essence of the lo-fi is this sort of like repetition that brings you into this like interesting vibe and puts this sort of like white noise effect happening. However, if it goes like more than a minute, it just becomes, you don't have to be some sort of like lo-fi connoisseur to figure out that no, that's not it. So I think you should just start producing, try to make something with whatever tools you might have. I mean, nowadays it's a lot easier. There's all these like DAWs that are available for purchase, or free ones, or cracked ones, because a lot of people I know, they use cracked versions of Fruity Loops still, even though they made like money with it. Just it's, if you want to pay like a couple of $100, at the end of the day, just do it. Like, you show your support to the people who actually make the instrument you use to make music. Yeah, there's a little kid behind. I think it's intermission time. But I think when it comes to hardware, of course, this also depends with people's budget. Like, not everybody has the same money with somebody else, but it's very basic. Like, you definitely need some sort of a computer, like, or something, whether it's like a cheap laptop or whatever, or maybe like a good enough phone. Like I've seen stuff like, there's a bunch of apps, like the Koala app. Basically, I started fucking with it too. Like, it's an interesting, like, it's a SP404 in the palm of your hand. So there's even, I think recently there was even like some guys like ran a competition between the SP and Koala samplers, like, online, and you would, like, I heard like stuff that dude did that with a phone. Like, what? Like, it's fucking crazy. And then I think you definitely need to get some sort of MIDI surface or MIDI controller. I myself have an Akai, mini Akai, so it's like you have like a couple of octaves of the keys, and then a little like a drum beat machine on the back. So yeah, you can work with that. You don't really need super fancy stuff, but I think the main goal is like to just start making whatever. Even if you start hitting, like, I don't know, your mom's utensils or kitchen equipment, like, and it produce sounds and you like it, if you have some sort of like a recording, you can record it somehow and then you can sequence it. I mean, we've seen a bunch of guys who, let's say, I'm gonna make a beat with something like one of my friends on the scene, Gabu, who's like a singer-songwriter, and he makes beats. Like, he made like recently a TikTok that kind of like went low-key viral when he said something about sampling, and sampling is bad and whatever. And he said you should record the sound of a cucumber falling into wet earth and then make a banger out of it. But you can do that. I mean, it's not difficult. And if you do it, just hit him up. He's waiting for that. So. I would say just start just doing stuff. Like, it's not, because a lot of people think that, but I might need like to contact labels and do this and do that. Not really, though. Not really. Like, you just need to start making sounds or music, and if you like it yourself and you like what you're doing, then there's always like a reference. Like, there's always like all these artists that you probably listen to. Like, if your shit sounds close to that, then I guess it's good enough. I mean, yeah. But of course, like, shit sounding that good, or you think they sound good, like there's a universe. It could be like a universe of differences there, but still, like, I would say that's my suggestion. Like, when I started like 20 years ago, I just want to make music like one of my favorite DJs made, and I just started like putting shit together, and it sounded like crap. But the more you do, the more you get better. Not only music, like in everything in life. You repeat something long enough, you become a master of it. So.
Okay. Thank you for your time. This is the end of the interview. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, please like and subscribe for more. But just like that, we're done. Bye.
Thank you. Ciao.
Science is music. Ready. 1,